Welcome to week 32. And here we are with the card of isolation, and the actual fable is Sapphires Blue. And something I want to point out to you in this card is that Sapphire, he's right here. That's the character of Sapphire. And what he's actually holding is he's holding an invitation. He's holding an invitation and he's looking at his suit. So why that becomes valuable here is, in a sense, his isolation is he's got the invitation, he's got the suit, will he go? And when we look at the idea of isolation, here I go again, and I start with you guys, okay, it really brings forward the idea that, and this is what happens with Sapphire, he says, I've got everything I need right here. Like, why do I need to go out? And yes, that's what we hear, but the truth of the situation is that when we look at the energy of isolation, we're really looking at the fact that you did all the work. You've got the degree, you've got everything you need. You've got whatever it is, you've signed up for, you know, I want to say group activities, and you're getting to make new friends and you're not showing up for it. So not that that's your story, but that's what isolation represents. It says, hey, you're ready. Why are you cutting yourself off from that invitation, that moment that's yours? So this is really what's interesting, and I know you've heard me say this, the idea of what opposes exposes. So when we look at isolation in and of itself, and we look at what opposes it, which would be, you know, gallivanting or having fun or not being isolated, right? Being around others and in a crowd, right? Memories, fun. So when we look at all of that, we can look at the idea that what this card is really about is it's asking you, are you ready to walk away from the state of isolation? Now, sometimes, and I've seen this happen, where you get into a pattern, and I had a client who got into a pattern of studying for her master's, and she had one course left and she wasn't finishing it. And she just would stay home and read, and she, I'm not ready for the test. She had a test that was required after. And she's like, I'm not ready. And finally her sister sent her to me, and she comes to me and she's like, I'm just not ready to do this. And I'm like, okay, but I don't think it's that you're not ready. I said, I think it's that your isolation is so comfortable. She was like, oh, that doesn't make sense. I go to class. I go, but how much of your time do you socialize? She said, I really don't. I go to class and I'm around people, and I come home and I just study. And I said, yes. She said, well, I'm alone most of the time. And I said, and that's your pattern. That's your comfort zone, right? And she said, yeah. And so I said, you see, what will happen if you take that one course? What will happen is that your comfort zone will change. And she went, oh. And I said, yeah, the next chapter of your life begins, whatever that looks like. So we have to look at how this now stacks from the prior card in what is this manifesting chakra, the fifth chakra. We've just come from bittersweet of recognizing that things will change. And this is the second card in blue, which means it is the second chakra. So as I say that to you, I really want you to get and take on the idea of, oh, if we look at the energy of the second card, communicating our emotions, this could be not communicating emotions. It could really be, I'm just going to sit here because I don't know how to deal with these feelings. And sometimes our feelings are good, but we're scared of them. So we feel the fear instead of the good, because we're so used to a particular pattern. So this really offers you the opportunity this week to look at how you are, I want to say, expressing and manifesting your emotions, because your emotions are what is running the show. So there you go. So let's take a look at the fable and the book this week, which is, okay, Chakra Wisdom Toolkit. And I want to just express here, it says the 52-week journey of self-discovery with the Lost Fables. And part of the reason they're called lost is that when we did the card deck, we didn't have enough room in that little booklet. So they took the full fable that you see in this book and they took it down to a legend, which is tiny, tiny, tiny. And so what did that do? Well, that meant that the fables were lost. So we lost them in the first, in the deck. But it needed to be done so that people could just get to the card reading part, because that's what they wanted, right? So in this, we're really looking at the lost fables and the impact they're going to have not only on you, but your intuitive energy and the way you interpret experiences in your life. Because life is really about interpretation of it. So, you know, this week we consider why, if you're ready to participate in whatever you desire, you've not yet taken action. Let's look at the fear-based beliefs that are holding you back from self-expression. One of the things I want to remind you of is all beliefs are fear-based. Knowing is the place of God consciousness. Because you see, you know, people say, oh, do you believe what you do? And I know you've heard me share the story before, but no, I don't. I know it. You know, I don't have to believe it to experience it. You know, I don't have to believe that, you know, I don't have to believe something to know it works, you know, and that's the thing. It sometimes I don't need the belief. It's more that I know it to be true. And I stand to that because I know it happens. Why do I want to question it? Why do I want to rip it apart? It's kind of like if you think of this particular statement and this energy as a rose, right? So we know a rose starts out and grows and it becomes a bud, right? So we've got rosebud. No, Orson Welles thing that. But rosebud, right? And what happens is that a rose will unfold. But if you go to it and you open it up and you go, okay, what's in there? Nothing's in there because there's nothing there. There's no there. What is there is the process of it unfolding, the knowing that the joy is part of the passage of time, not necessarily what's in there. So I think sometimes when we work with intuitive work, it's very important that we have a passage of time. And energetically here with Sapphires Blue, we're really looking at the idea that fear-based beliefs are really beliefs. That's what a belief is. It's fear-based. But when you know something to be true, you know it and you don't need to argue it. And I'm going to share this with you, which I think is very important. You're going to notice the people who truly will argue with you are the people who are defending a belief and not necessarily something they know to be true. Okay, so let's take a look at, now this is really, and it's so funny because as I read it, I see how I've evolved too, but this really is about why am I not doing what I want to do, right? I mean, that's really the question that people come in when they work with me. They'll go, why am I not doing what I do? And, you know, I can be trite and say, well, because you don't want to do it. That's not always true, you know, and full disclosure, I've suffered in my life from depression, and I know that debilitating inability to move. And, you know, for me, it feels like I'm pulling myself out of a dungeon, and yet that is part of it. So when I look at the idea of what it says here about preventing ourselves from following through on something that matters deeply, the depression can be, or something that prevents us emotionally, right? Second card, something that prevents us emotionally from following through can be directly tied to childhood trauma or family trauma. You know, if you think about, like, you know, someone who says, well, that person always cheats. Well, what do you think that's going to do emotionally to them when it comes to money? So you can see how, like, we may want to hold ourselves back from becoming what we want to become because of something that, you know, we think, oh, that may be true about me. So, and remember here, if you need the beauty of this, and the beauty of this conversation is if you need support, get it. You know, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's friends, whether it's journaling or spirituality in meditation or church, whatever it is for you, get it, because that's where breakthroughs come. See, breakthroughs don't really come when we're sitting alone. There, we've processed things, but it's when we're out in the world and all of a sudden we go, oh, I get it, because we're focusing on something else. You know, I was working on a what do you call it, a talk when I was in California recently, and everybody's like, what are you going to talk about? I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And they go, well, shouldn't you decide? It's tomorrow night. And I went, I'll get up and talk. I don't know yet. And I kept saying, I don't know yet. And then I looked up and there was a number on the wall for that particular room, and something went, wait a minute, that's it. And it sparked a memory that sparked an idea that allowed me to go, okay. And you see, working with that intuitive side instead of, you know, the fear-based, oh my gosh, I've got to do this, it's going to be horrible. It was great. It was fantastic because I was present for the people that were there. Okay, so obviously look at the fable. And I think that the difference we're looking at here between the red chakra, and if we go back to the red chakra, when we look at raspberry, you know, and that's what this really talks about. This one, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, in here it says that raspberry is about perfectionism, right? But you see, that led her to be critical of others. But with sapphire, we learn what it's like to be truly frozen and making excuses for not taking action. Because you see, if we compare the two, we can look at that as being a form of control or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, they're different sides of the same coin. However, by saying that to you, it means nothing, because we can say that depression and peace are opposite each other, but that doesn't help you achieve or experience peace any more than if I say depression is this, you know, it's the opposite of peace. You go, well, I don't know now what depression is because I don't have a thing, how to do it. No. So what I'm saying is that, you know, although we can draw correlations, it's only when we emotionally know what that experience is, then we can break through it. You see, we have to name it and claim it to enable to discard it. So, and this is here in this, the intention for the week. I think we're really talking about, remember that beliefs are fear-based. There's a belief about waiting to engage with the world that's going on. So who didn't let you move forward? Who is it in your life that so feared something that they became an isolator? And what is it about that that helps you break through? You know, I had somebody say to me, well, I'm not an isolator. I'm out in the world. I'm doing all this stuff. And that's great. Yet they were the opposite of their family of origin. But here's something interesting. They were out all the time and they never had time for themselves. They never really had. And so they were always busy. And therefore they had the same idea. They were making excuses for, oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. That's why I can't do things. So it's the same thing. So you see, when I pointed that out, that the excuse is the same, then you look at it and go, because the belief is the same. I'm too busy. So it's interesting, you know, when we look at it that way. So, okay. Let's see. Set an intention to identify which of the plans you've been making in your head is ready to become a reality, and start looking at the physical steps you can take. So remember that in this week, in this second position of the blue fables, it's about emotion, but the next one is about taking action, right? The next week. But this week, what emotions do you need to have? What feeling do you need to have in order to say, yes, I'm going to take action on this? So take some time in the comments below to write down, these are the feelings I need to experience to take action. This is what's going to spur me on to do something. So that becomes a very important aspect of how to move through the bittersweet and the idea of isolation. And so, of course, the color, today take some time to consider what you need to heal so that you can step forward. And I think that that's the color reflection. That's the reflection of that. Wednesday, when we look at the journal journey, it asks questions, and it's a bigger journaling exercise. But I would say to you this, try not to, if you can, okay, let me put that in English. Try to really take on the journal journey of Wednesday and really ask yourself those questions using your neutral observer, using that dialogue between you and your neutral observer, which is in the book, How to Read the Cards for Yourself and Others. If you go into that book and you look at working with neutral observer and exercises, that will help you here. And I encourage you to do that exercise. Let's see. And that's the other book, How to Read the Cards for Yourself and Others. Connecting with yourself and others. This is important because you're going to establish what you do really want. And then, let's see. Okay. The thing you want to get is that part of what you have to remember that everything in this fifth chakra is going to bring up things that get you stopped in manifesting. So the thing to remember is that each week in this experience of the fifth chakra, these are going to be about blowing away the cobwebs, getting some clarity, and cleaning out those dusty corners, so to speak. Because one of the things that happens, and let me just see where it is here, because let's see. Okay, this really brings up the idea of, as I wrap up, the idea of, I think it's Zig Ziglar who said, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And so this is really about that. Emotionally, what do you need to really face and look at and admit that you want before you can make a plan for it? And one of the things that happens here is understand in this week, you may have no idea what actions to take. For instance, if you want to start a business, you have no idea what actions to take. But you can just come up with some activities, like 3 things to do. Like, okay, I don't know how to start a business, so maybe I'll read an article online. 1 would be read an article online about how to start a business. And 2, what does it take to have a successful business? Okay, maybe I'll read something about that. And 3, do I know anybody who has a business that is successful, whether or not it's my business? So for example, if you want to open a shoe store and someone has a dry cleaning, I'm making this up, you can literally go to the successful dry cleaner and say, do you have time for me to talk about what it's like to have a successful small business and the challenges you have? So, going out into the workforce, and for me as an entrepreneur, I like to be around other creative people, because that just because somebody's not writing a book doesn't mean they're not creative, and doesn't mean they're not doing things that are creatively inspired. So those are some things that I would encourage you to look at emotionally. What is it that you like? I don't know what to do, because the I don't know is one of the biggest things that becomes a roadblock, because we go, well, I don't know what to do, and that's it. Every day, keep asking Spirit and say, you know what? Show me what I need to do, and make it a billboard so I don't miss it. I love that one. So go ahead and read everything this week. Make sure you do the meditation. I find that's really grounding. And remember to let everything go for the weekend, because that's the cooking time. That's the time when you can go, oh, the food's in the oven. Let me think about this. So I will see you all next week. Have a very blessed week. And I look forward to continuing on this journey with you. See you next